Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Um, for some reason, Vinland Saga was so hard to find this week. I don't know why. But once I found it, once I actually found it, boy, boy, it was fire. Um, I was actually kind of surprised that regardless of all the information we got from last week on just the similarities of if you go and, do something, usually your actions have repercussions. And if that is the case and you believe in that, then everything they're doing is going to have some really bad backlash. But, oops. But from what we can see, it hasn't been all that bad, right? Like they haven't seen too much bad, and because of that, they still feel like their leader isn't steering them wrong. So until they actually get steered wrong and they have clear evidence that they're gonna like die and it's gonna be their captain's fault and stuff like that, they're gonna follow him through everything. So we already have a pretty good understanding of what his people are capable of when it comes down to following leadership and him just controlling their every single move to the point where this seemed like it was coming. It just took a lot longer than I expected, but the killing of the prince's like right hand dude, he was just too he had too much to say all the time, right? Like for instance, if I'm the leader and I say we're doing this, this, and that, and then the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth who's not even someone I really care about, he's gonna, he's not gonna look good in front of the troops. He's not gonna get that much of a, backing. But everything, you really are the only thing that was in his way of, making the prince do certain things that he probably wanted the prince to do. So now we're kind of just stuck in a position where we have to guess on, what comes next and what's going to continue to happen. Because as of now, we just saw how like promising it is for Thorkell, the man who's been hunting down these guys. Now it seems a lot more promising for him to be able to get into this fight with them, this a long-lasting fight maybe for his, you know, for his happiness. Because seeing how if he doesn't fight, he ain't happy. So we'll see how all that turns out in the end and what he does throughout these fights. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Like, destroying this guy finally pushed him to a position where he needed to spill his guts. And I mean that literally as well, figuratively and literally. He had to spill his guts. And once he spilled those guts, we learned so much. We learned so much. And it kind of sucks to know that whatever comes after this is probably going to be justice to, all the negative things our people have been doing to get to where they are. It feels like sooner or later they're gonna have what's coming to them, right? Like they have to. It's almost written in stone at this point when it comes down to everything they've done and everything that they continue to do is adding up in like a debt book or something. A debt book of all the debt you owe for your sins. So it's very there's a lot of religious tones in this, which is kind of like very intelligent on the creator because that's just how it was, like the Vikings are the one of the most religious people when it comes down to thinking that, when you die you go to Valhalla and all that. That stuff is like sketched into their way of life everywhere. So it's not like one Viking believes it in this certain village and spread it. It's every single Viking believe that. So that's practically how they just figure out, whatever they're doing is fine by their standards. So why not continue to do it? And it's those types of things that really give you an understanding of like what could come next. Like what is the next step for this show if not giving us this information about how easy it is to, commit these sins and whatnot. But then after committing them, seemingly you don't, nothing bad happens to you, right? So why is it called a sin if you don't lose anything or get hurt for doing something, So it's one of these things where the Vikings are looking at Christianity sideways, just like how the Christians are looking at them sideways for loving war and thinking that they're going to find something worth fighting for on the battlefield instead of just looking for love or something along those lines. So it's a very cool narrative, like a really cool like overall way of just putting into perspective like who and what kind of makes their moves, like what really dictates some of these people's moves and what they do at the end of the day. And we kind of figure out that it's in their DNA at this point, right? Like they just believe some of this stuff is the only way to do stuff. So that's just how it winds up looking at the end of the day. But regardless, I do truly think that this show is ridiculously powerful and amazing. And I haven't really gotten any reason to be like, this show's kind of trash. Like, there's no time for me that I've actually thought this show was bad, including with seeing Thorfinn and the reaction with the prince and getting him to talk for the first time and really lash out at someone that he just didn't agree with, and hearing everything he was saying about him, you can understand why he didn't agree with Thorfinn and didn't like him. So it's one of those things where the character development is always kind of on point, and sometimes it's really needed. And once we get those things, we end up in a position where we can enjoy the show so much more. Um, but yeah, taking this cone head, as they call him, out was probably one of the more predictable things that our mercenary was going to do. Just seeing how he felt like everything this guy was talking about or everything this guy was bringing up was kind of obsolete in his motives and his life that he wanted to live and make the prince live and stuff like that. So to him, this conehead guy's just been in the way this whole time, and he's like, okay, finally, I could do more of what I want, and no one can really question it. Even the person that has been questioning it the most is always got to be the first one gone, right? So it's those types of decision making that has already put him in this position now. That for instance, the girl who I was telling you guys about was living practically, in her mind, she was living the same life as these Vikings by stealing something, just one ring. She felt like she was in the same position as these Vikings of taking lives and committing all these different heinous crimes and stuff because she did a crime herself. And now we see she's kind of redeeming herself or trying to help redeem the villagers' lives by telling a nearby village, and that village just so happened to have Thorkell in it, eating and drinking all their food. Um, it turns out to be one of those things that I was calling last week, and I do truly appreciate everybody that checked out last week's episode. You guys murdered the like button, and I truly appreciate that. Um, but to think that this girl survived and got to this place, and then these guys are marching on them and found them so quickly, doesn't it not sound like the message I was kind of putting out there that whatever you kind of you do, it's gonna have some kind of some kind of backlash, right? Or anything you don't fully look into can cause you some of the most trouble and the most problems. So to have stuff like that showing up and these characters really not being able to do anything about it, that's the type of stuff that really warrants this overall image that they've been putting in our heads this whole time of who's been doing wrong and who's been doing right, or what is wrong and right, all these types of things that they just kind of throw at you freely. Um, and now we kind of have an understanding of where everything is headed. We have the big information that the prince was truly brought out to the battlefield to die, to like have a death, which 1,000% makes sense because the king pulls all of his troops out, tells the prince to stay there with a small amount of troops that we saw a bigger amount of troops go in and lose, and he's like, hey, now keep this small troop, yeah, and go fight the same people we just lost to and figure it out. Like, wait, what? I had to do what? And then not only that, this is a prince that likes to cook. He's probably never fought in his life in a death battle, right? And he likes to his cooking is a hobby to him. So it's one of those things where now if Thorfinn becomes like a free man from this group of like people, and he winds up somehow friends with the prince, or the prince and him make it out of this somehow, imagine what the story could be if Thorfinn and the prince were, on the run, and after they're on the run, they make it to somewhere where they can think they can be trusted, to come to find out that they really can't be trusted. Stuff like that usually gets me in a thought process of just what is possible. Because you got to remember, everybody on this side of these people, with Thorfinn's group and stuff, they're all on the chopping block at this point. Like, they're all pretty close to just fading into the abyss, and because of that, it gives the story a stronger meaning in the case of when is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? Because we already know it's going to happen just by the way they've been living their lives, by they've been treating these people. So we know it's coming. We just don't know how, and that's going to be quite the interesting turn of events, I feel. So, if anything, I definitely want to hear your guys' opinion on what you guys are feeling about this show. It's been going quite well, in my opinion. Like, I've been enjoying it. I'm not sure if there's much negative, like, stuff out there about it. I mean, there's no way it's all positive, right? There's no way this series is only getting positive reinforcement, like feedback and stuff. But who knows? Who knows? It could be one of the most talked about shows positive lately. But regardless, I will be here talking to you guys about it until it ends because I am completely hooked and I want to see where all this leads. So if you are interested in it like me, definitely stick around because, like I said, I'll be on top of it as quickly as I can. Even if I gotta go and search through some ridiculous stuff to find it, I will do that. But yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be when you're watching this. I am your boy, the Anime G, and I will definitely talk to you in the next one. So with that being said, peace.